This episode of the Sloopcast is brought to you by the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company is an Ohio-based company where they usually say our seasoning will take your barbecue from good to great. Great seasonings such as the smoked, the savory, the curry steak, and the Four Horsemen. You can't go wrong with any of the great flavors over at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Again, that is the MadCanadianBBQ.com. While you're there, be sure to use that promo code SloopCast10, SloopCast10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. You want more seasonings? Check out some of the great packages that the Mad Canadian has, such as the Just Send It, the Sweet Heat, and the Whole Hog, which consists of one of each of the great seasonings over at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where they have your butt covered.
This episode of the Sloopcast is also brought to you by the Iron Bean Coffee Company. Kyle, this morning for the very first time, I tried the Fierce. Now, I've said on this podcast several times, I'm more of a medium roast guy. Mm-hmm. But my goodness, this Fierce might just change my mind. I'm not, and this is just me talking right now. This isn't me trying to. This is just me talking right now. It was amazing, amazing. It's my favorite dark roast I've ever had. Just next level amazing. I'm kind of mad I only have a sample bag worth, but that's for me to fix later. If you want to buy your own Fierce, or if you want to check out some of the medium roast or potentially some of the other dark roast that they have over at ironbeancoffee.com, you can do so yourself at ironbeancoffee.com. World-class, hand-roasted, micro-roasted, Ohio-based, Marine veteran-owned coffee. Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster.
How's it going, everybody?
Yes, everyone, how is it going? I do have the video feed up, right, Kyle? Oh, I might not, actually. There you go. Sorry about that, Nomad. Kyle, I told you I was forgetting something. I told you. See, I'm gonna make the thing that's my fault your fault now. I told you I was forgetting something.
Oh, let's see what else we'll screw up today.
Well, we're trying to predict the 2022 class in today's episode. So we're going to screw up a lot because trying to predict a class this far out is pretty stupid. But let's stop talking about the thing and let's start doing the thing. How about that?
Yes, sir.
We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing right over here. How are you doing today, Jared?
I have no complaints. Kyle, we have a lot to get to today. Last week, we predicted the 2021 depth chart. Many, many months out, which was probably pretty stupid. And today, we're going to do something even dumber.
We're going to do the 2022 class.
Yeah, we're going to try and predict the 2022 recruiting class. We are 11 months out from early signing period. We are slightly over 12 months out from their national signing day. So we are doing the dumbest possible thing right now. All right, Kyle, but before we do that, we are going to check out the some news. We got some news this week, so we're going to hit a couple other not small things. One of the things is actually rather big. Greg Madison, Ohio State co-defensive coordinator, is set to retire soon. I believe Ryan Day said at the end of the month, which it is almost always that. Almost always that? What? Kyle, English? I'm bad
English? Well, by the time our next episode's out, he should be.
Okay. All right. So yeah, he's set to retire very soon. Kyle, do you want to spend 5 minutes on basketball, or would you like to save that for the Kyle's Corner, or do you have something else for Kyle's Corner? How would you like to handle that?
We'll talk about the basketball team. I mean, it's big. I mean, Ohio State's doing really well. They're doing really well. They're currently, as we're recording this, and of course it's going to change by the time this gets broadcast, but 15th ranked in the country. Had a tough, close loss against Purdue earlier last week, but then made up for that with a big win on the road against a very talented Wisconsin team.
This team might be better on the road. Although, like I was saying, I said a few times during the course of the football season, I mean, and I get that like travel sucks, so I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but how much does home field / home court really matter
I don't know, but Ohio State's doing pretty well. I mean, last Saturday, went on the road to Wisconsin, won. Previous Saturday, went on the road against Illinois, won that. And then before that, went on the road against a good, I'm not going to say very talented, but a good Rutgers team and won there too. And then the previous one went on the road against an above average Northwestern team as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you go. Why is that still saying object deleted down there? Nomad says, watch it. You're going to anger Teddy with that word. Only members of our Discord get that joke. Our little sloop chat thing on the video is not working. It's not saying the person's name, but I can't fix that while we're talking. So we're just going to have to move forward.
So, yep, the next game's here. Ohio State has a long break here. They're not going to play until next Sunday, Jared. They got all week off here when they get to host Sparty.
Yeah.
And by the way, Sparty not doing too well. A lot of the blue bloods this year not doing well. Kentucky, Duke, UNC.
Yeah.
Not doing too well this year.
Yeah, it's kind of a disaster in college basketball right now. Well, because I think, and this is just me theorizing, a lot of those teams you met, not all of those teams, but a lot of those teams you mention often function off of young talent, and having young talent is really bad in the COVID era because you're not having the amount of, you don't have experience. So you don't have time to put in a bunch of different concepts. They're being forced to play very vanilla defenses, and the teams with the older players who aren't necessarily getting those one and done players that have a tendency to actually win national titles aren't, the youth, the highly talented youth model is not working quite as well in college basketball this year. And again, that does not apply to all of those teams, but I think that's at least my running theory as to what's going wrong.
All of those teams I just mentioned, UNC, Duke, Kentucky, and even put in Michigan State in there, all of those teams unranked right now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's been a long time since that's happened. I
saw an amazing tweet. I don't think Michigan State was included in it, but it went back decades. The last time all 3 or 4 of those teams were undefeated. I don't have it in front of me, and I'm not going to look for it, but because Kyle, this is a recruiting episode, so we're moving forward. We're going to talk about the Greg Madison thing in detail probably next week, when maybe we'll have some names for who Ohio State might bring in to replace him, based off of the press conference that Ryan Day gave this past week. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes after an NFL guy from the Pete Carroll coaching tree. Would be my assumption, but we're gonna maybe come back with a list of names next week, assuming something crazy doesn't happen between now and then. But I'm not hearing anything that would suggest that a hire is that imminent at the moment.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's talk about, just a couple of updates here on the 2021 class.
Yeah. 2021 class is pretty simple right now. There are 2 targets left. Period. There are 2 targets left. You have JT Tuimoloau. Nailed that. I said it too slowly, but the syllables were right. A lot of crystal ball activity. A little bit of a Nevada nugget. Well, we're 2 days out from that hitting the message boards at this point. I think we're safe to say Nevada over at the Buckeye Scoop dropped the equal sign on JTT. Now, we had been hearing a lot lately that JTT probably wouldn't be signing on National Signing Day and might wait it out and try and get some official visits in. So does the sudden movements of crystal balls and does Nevada dropping the equal sign for JTT, does that mean that we're now going to have him sign actually on National Signing Day? I don't have a ton of clarity on that, but it has me optimistic. But now versus later, he was never going to be an early enrollee anyway. So now versus later doesn't really matter a ton. He's a Buckeye.
Just as long as his Jan Hancock is on that letter and faxed to Ohio State.
All right. The other name, Raesjon Davis. It's a J, Jared. You should understand how to pronounce J. Raesjon Davis. So let's talk a little bit about Raesjon Davis. Yes, Herbie Hancock. Raesjon Davis was, if you rewind, let's rewind 1 week, Kyle. 1 week. Ohio State was out, according to literally everyone who I read and talk to. Done. Over. He was going to USC. Period. Done. Over. Then we got news breaking late last week that said he and his parents are coming to Columbus on their own dime to visit. Probably not coincidentally, it's also the same weekend that the early enrollees are moving into Columbus. What does all of this mean? Well, even with the visit, I was still feeling a little pessimistic, only because I had just been hearing for weeks from people I trust that it was done over. It's no, just let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. But the tide has apparently turned on that. And I'm not saying he's coming to Ohio State. But we went from 0% to maybe about 10% once we heard that he was coming. And now we're maybe more at 50. Maybe slightly above 50, maybe 55, 60. I'm not saying, hey guys, he's coming to Ohio State. Not going to say it. But it's a lot of momentum. It's a lot of momentum. So feeling cautiously optimistic on Raesjon Davis. I'm going to have to eat some crap on Twitter. Because I basically said, hey guys, it's not happening. Get over it. So, so even if he doesn't come to Ohio State, I'll still admit that I'm wrong. So that's it. I'm admitting I was wrong.
Mm-hmm. All right. So looking at it with these two here, Jared, let me go back here. Rankings right now, Alabama has a pretty comfortable lead if you want to look at number 1 and 2 teams ranked for the 2021 class here. Even if Ohio State's able to get both of these, yes. JTT and Raesjon.
Still second.
Is it enough to get to that number 1 spot?
It is not. Okay. Just shy. But it's close enough that I'm going to call it a tie. I might be biased, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, here's the thing, though. With if honestly, even if it's just Kyle, JTT,
we have a lot to get to.
I know, but even if it's just JTT that comes over on Ohio State finishes with 22 commits, let's just say.
Yeah.
I'd still take that as a win because of the average per recruit.
Fair enough. Right. I'm not going to disagree with you. So, right. Transfer portal, one name to watch for the transfer portal. Ohio State will be looking to the transfer portal. They absolutely want at least bodies at cornerback, quarterback, and tight end. Now, they will take a linebacker if it's the correct linebacker. And I know a lot of kids are I know a lot of people are looking at the kid from USC, and I just don't see it. I know he's a former 5-star, but I also think he's injury hampered. I don't see it happening. The linebacker name I do want you guys to watch is Henry To'o, and I'm pretty sure I nailed that pronunciation. He is Ohio State does not need to take a linebacker in the transfer portal, but they will for the correct guy. And I do believe To'o is that correct guy. He's an instant starter at Ohio State.
Yep. He just a little background here. He's a top 50, 44th nationally for the 2019 class. So 2 years ago, borderline 5-star. Like it was a 9.779. That's a borderline 5-star rating right there. Committed to Tennessee and is looking to get out.
All right, Kyle. And with that, a lot of people trying to get out of Tennessee right now. With that, let's get in on the 2022 guys. All right. Quarterback.
Let's start offense. The big position here, what really matters for the most part, the position that wins you championships, quarterback.
Yeah. We're done at quarterback. Quinn Ewers committed to Ohio State. And I know a lot of people are very concerned about the coaching change at Texas. He decommitted from Texas, and in large part, at least if you listen to the rumors, is because he did not like Tom Herman. So people see Tom Herman out. They see Sark come in. They see what Sark did with Alabama's offense last year, and there's concern. And my advice to you, the listeners, if Ewers actually goes on the Austin campus, be concerned. Until then, ignore all the Twitter and message board rumblings.
RELAX.
Yes, exactly. All right, that's enough with the quarterbacks.
Yep. All right. The slobs, Jared.
Yeah.
The good old slobs to protect Quinn Ewers.
Yeah. Already in the class, Tegra Chabola. Some names to watch. I think the big name that Ohio State still has a really nice chance at right now is Zach Rice. He's out of Virginia. I know a lot of people are also talking about Gunner out of. I don't see that happening at all. So I'm letting that one go. We're still looking at Zach Rice. I don't feel great about Zach Rice coming to Ohio State, only because stud does not typically win these 5-star offensive tackle players from out of state. And Virginia might just be a little too far away from Ohio for stud to win this one. Another name to keep an eye on is, how do we want to pronounce this one, Kyle? Chianti Goodwin? Chianti Goodwin. We'll go Chianti Goodwin. This is a high 4-star offensive tackle. I like Goodwin to Ohio State a lot. He is out of state, but it's Indiana. So, Ohio State typically, with the exception of Notre Dame, typically gets who they want out of Indiana. So, keep an eye on it still, but I like good. I think ultimately, if we're predicting this class, which is what we're doing today, I think I'm going to slot Goodwin into the class, and I'm not going to slot Rice into the class.
Gotcha. All right. What about this last guy here, Emil Wagner out of Wayne High School in Dayton?
I think Ohio State can get him if they want him, but I also think that Ohio State has had a tendency, although this seems to be less true under Ryan Day than it was Urban Meyer, has a tendency to wait a little too long to go after the Ohio kids, and the Ohio kids feel spurned and go elsewhere. We saw that happen with a couple kids in the 2021 class who I think Ohio State could have used, but maybe just waited a little too long on. Mm-hmm. Wagner, I think, is a player that Ohio State can have if they take the recruitment seriously, and I think that they will, and I think I will slot Wagner into the Ohio State class.
You know who the last kid out of Wayne High School that came to Ohio State?
We're on a roll. We're on a rush here today, Kyle. Let's go for it.
Braxton Miller.
Is that right?
That is right.
There wasn't more recent. Wasn't Jalen Gill out of, no, maybe?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Never mind. I once again, and we're not going to try and play that. We have too much to get to today. Too much to get
running backs here, Jared. Running backs. You got some names here. Let's first talk about Nicholas Singleton, the 4-star out of Roding, Pennsylvania.
Is it Reading?
Excuse me, Reading. You are right.
Sorry, in Kyle's defense,
pixelated for me. Reading.
The font is very small. Kyle, you want to bump that zoom up to about 125. That'll help you. Yeah, I think Singleton's an incredibly talented running back. I think maybe a little too talented to come to Ohio State, given the fact that Ohio State has 2 amazing running backs joining in the 2021 class, a freshman running back from the 2020 class that was getting significant carries this year. I like Singleton a lot. I ultimately don't see it happening for Ohio State this year. By the way, Nomad asks, can Ohio State afford to miss a year of quarterbacks? No, because you can bring in all of these talented guys, but quarterback is quarterback, and ultimately people transfer out. You need to bring in a guy every single year. Because Ohio State was in a bad position, not so much this year, because, if you really, really had to, you probably could have plugged Stroud in. But last year, Ohio State trying to make a national championship run in the 2019 season, your backup quarterback wasn't going to get it done. And you don't ever want to be in that position ever again. So, no, you have to keep adding guys. All right, another running back to keep an eye on is Dalen Hayden. He is out of Memphis, Tennessee. I like Hayden a lot. He has some crystal ball love going to Tennessee right now. But Tennessee's Tennessee. They're a giant dumpster fire at the moment. So I don't know why anyone who has options, and Hayden is good enough to have options, would go to Tennessee right now. So I pretty much will. I'll cancel those crystal balls on behalf of whoever put them in.
He may get a Happy Meal.
Another name to keep an eye on: Damari Alston. How do you like that pronunciation, Kyle?
Alston or Alston? I'm
gonna go Alston. Alston? Okay. Should I go Alston? Guys, welcome to the Sloopcast. Running back out of Atlanta, Georgia. Specifically the Woodward Academy. I think if I had to pick a running back in this class, which again is probably a stupid thing to do in January, but if I had to pick a running back in this class to eventually join Ohio State, I'm gonna pick this one. Damari Alston, I think, is a future Buckeye, but that's an 11-month prediction right there. So I'll
kind of ask the same question here that Nomad asked, Jared.
Yeah.
Can Ohio State afford to not pick a running back this year or in this class too, or really any year?
No. Again, because the curse of Ohio State is you don't necessarily have a lot of players who stick around for a long time. Either A, they're good enough to go find playing time somewhere else, a la Jalen Gill, or you lose them in 3 years because they're that talented. So running backs especially, you tend to turn those guys over every 3 years. And again, Ohio State picked up 2 great running backs in the 2021 class, but maybe one of them transfers out if they're not getting the playing time that they expect. So no, you got to keep going. You can't skip a year.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jared. Maybe this next group here maybe could afford to skip this 2022 year just because of how ridiculously crowded the wide receiver group is.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They've already picked up the best wide receiver in the 2022 class. Yeah, if there is actually a position in which Ohio State could take the year off, it is wide receiver.
Man,
Probably not though, because it transfers. But yeah, they've already got Caleb Burton.
Yeah, and Ohio State's still just not stopping there. They're looking at quite a few really talented wide receivers here as well. So other than Caleb Burton, who's already verbally committed back in November, currently the 14th national recruit, number one in his position. Who else you got? Who else does Ohio State have on there, or that you see Ohio State can really go after?
Kalen Grays. I think I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Grays is right. I'm not the first name. I think it's Kalen. He's a former Arizona State commit. He's out of Chandler, Arizona. If you look at his numbers, if you just go purely by his composite, then I don't, it's not going to be this thing that jumps out to you as amazing. But then again, neither did Chris Olave's. And if Ohio State is targeting him, and allegedly, from everything I hear, will absolutely take a commitment from him if he chooses to make that decision, trust the coaching staff. Ohio State does not need to reach at wide receiver right now. So you might say, what, the 46th best wide receiver in the country per the 24/7 Sports composite and the 24/7 Sports proper? 46. Why is Ohio State just trust the coaching staff on this one?
Trust Heartline.
Yeah.
Now, if it's numbers or high ratings you want to look at, maybe you look no further than CJ Williams out of Santa Ana, California.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredibly talented. This is another Mater Day kid. Mater Day, the home of Raesjon Davis. And it's a high school that's basically a college prep football academy in California. Ohio State has a chance here. I wonder if, again, you look at fourth best wide receiver in the country. They already have the first best wide receiver in the country. They have an incredibly talented and crowded wide receiver room. Is that enough to scare away a kid who's playing all the way in California? For that reason, I don't think I'm going to include him in the final prediction, but I also would never ever count Heartline out. So I could very well be wrong on that one, but I'm not going to include Williams in the final prediction. I am including Grays.
All right. Anybody else in this class that you want the listeners to keep an eye out or an ear out?
Young man out of Georgia named Kojo. You want to help me out with that last name? You want to take a stab at that one for me?
Antwi?
Works for, yeah. Kojo Antwi. Another, like I said, wide receiver out of Georgia, top 20 wide receiver in the country. I think there's a legitimate chance he ends up in this class. I'm not going to include him in the final. We do have a final 25 we'll reveal towards the end of the show. I'm not going to include him in it, but he's absolutely a name to watch. And let's see, we have Nomad saying year of the tight end will never happen again. I hate to break it to you, Nomad. 2021's the year of the tight end. We already know this. We saw it happen against Clemson. That kicked it off. That kicked it off. We're already in the year of the tight end. It's a calendar thing, not a season thing. This is the year of the tight end.
Yes.
And I say that to move us into the fact that we are looking at the tight ends. Benji Gosnell and Bennett Christian. These are the two tight ends currently in Ohio State's class. I think as long as they feel, and by the way, I'm not projecting anyone to decommit from this class. I'm not doing it. That's not a thing. I want to just guess at. I feel like that's inappropriate, but also B, because I've not heard any rumblings to suggest that's a thing that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I like I said, Ohio State is, I think, really happy with these two tight ends. And I think as long as they're confident that they can keep these two tight ends, I think they're going to stick to these two tight ends. And with that, Kyle, I think it's time to hear from our sponsors. Let's see, the Iron Bean Coffee Company, Kyle. Iron Bean Coffee is an Ohio-based, Marine-owned, fresh-to-order, world-class micro-batch coffee roasting company. I already told you a bit about the Fierce, which I drank for the first time today, and it was amazing. Let's see, some of the other dark roasts. The Rocco you can get in a medium or a dark roast. It's a unique Ethiopian natural. It's best for those who enjoy coffees that insist on being noticed. The Thor is a medium dark coffee, somewhere in between. The Odin is a dark coffee. It's tremendous as well. Nomad is giving the Odin his vote of approval down there. There's the Drink from the Skull of Your Enemy. I have a bag of that. I've not cracked it open yet. The Fear No Evil. Now, if you like dark roast, this one's not a dark roast. This one's a black roast. It is roasted to the brink of flames. It is void of all light. So if you like a dark roast, maybe take it to the next level and check out that black roast. And then, of course, there's the staple roast of the Iron Bean Coffee Company, which is the Integrity. Dark roasted, makes a great espresso. I'd highly recommend that one if dark roasts are your thing. Now, there's lots of other coffees I didn't mention: medium roast, medium light roast, flavored roast, and you can find all of those at ironbeancoffee.com. That's Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster.
This episode is also brought to you by the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. One thing that Mad Canadian is known for here with his seasonings is his barbecue. What can you put on your meats, your hamburgers, your chicken, your whatever the case may be. But what about vegetables, Jared? What about vegetables? Can any of these seasonings go well in vegetables? The answer to that is yes. He has quite a few different seasonings here that would go really well on different types of vegetables. Let's start with the Oak, Jared. The Oak, it's a classic Midwestern seasoning. It has cornfields and ranch dressing. It's a wonderful smoked ranch blend to make your guests say, let me just squeeze by you and get some more of that. Or how about the Brits blend, Jared? This is a really good seasoning. Goes well with chili. It's chili weather right now. I made some chili last weekend. Really good in some chili mixtures there too, as well as a potato salad. It's a really good, it's a right amount of heat and savory that goes great on those chilly fall or winter mornings. Or what about the savory as well, Jared? It's the exact season that he puts on all of his pulled pork. It's a salty savory mix. That'd be your sure favorite at your next barbecue. Check out all those seasonings and much, much more over at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. That is the MadCanadianBBQ.com. And be sure to use the promo code SloopCast10, SloopCast10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where he has your butt covered.
All right, Kyle, it is time to talk about the defense. Time to talk about the defense.
Defense that needs a lot of help from what we saw last year.
You know, I feel like there's already talent on the team that will take care of that. And if we're waiting on the 2022 kids, that's going to take that's too much time, man. That's too much time. But yeah, let's talk about the defense. All right, let's do the middle of the pack here. Let's do the middle defensive slobs here. Who do you got here to keep an eye out for? Yeah. So one thing you'll notice is, especially along the defensive line, which is a position that we normally see Ohio State sort of fill out early, hasn't yet. There's currently no commits along the defensive line. That being said, I really like Cayden Curry, not just as a player, but also as a potential Buckeye. I think he does end up on this roster when it's all said and done. We sort of talked about Ohio State getting their pick out of Indiana and, still having to deal with Notre Dame sometimes, which is, who you have to watch out for in respect to Cayden Curry. But I think that Cayden Curry is just almost a Buckeye. I really feel like we're maybe just waiting on an inevitable thing there.
Yep. Top 100 recruit for the 2022 class. Best in the state of Indiana. It almost seems like it's meant to be here.
I believe so.
All right. Another guy you have here who's already a hard commit to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Derek Shepard.
Yeah. He's just outside the top 250 in the 24/7 Sports composite. As Kyle said, he is already committed to Cincinnati. And with all due respect to, of course, remember what I was talking about before when we were talking about the offensive linemen? I said, sometimes Ohio State waits a little too long on these Ohio kids. And maybe that's the case with Derek Shepard. But I got to feel, as long as he doesn't feel spurned by Ohio State, and as long as he doesn't feel like, he feels passed over or disrespected by Ohio State, I feel like if Ohio State really wanted to, they could probably move him away from Cincinnati. He committed to Cincinnati in December, especially, if when we start to get visits up and going again, I feel like Ohio State, with no disrespect to Cincinnati, but Ohio State just doesn't lose these type of recruiting battles. If Ohio State decides that they really want Derek Shepard, they probably do. Again, that just sort of depends upon where Derek Shepard is. Does he already feel disrespected? Does he already feel this? Does he already feel that? Then maybe his mind is already made up. But maybe not. And Ohio State is just the better opportunity, especially if he's a guy who has his eye on the NFL.
Yeah. We mentioned it before too. I'll mention it here too.
And real quick, worth noting that, Cincinnati is officially down their defensive coordinator, Freeman, off to Notre Dame. Does that play in?
Yeah, definitely. We still got pretty much a year left here.
Exactly.
To find out. So absolutely. Well, looking at the Ohio kids here in general, Ohio State currently with their verbal commits, number 1, number 2, number 3. We talked about Wagner already at number 4. Caden Saunders currently committed to Penn State at number 5. Ohio State also number 6 with the guy we're actually going to be talking about here shortly at number 6 there. So Ohio State already have verbal commits and a strong lean to getting to 5 of the top 6 for the state of Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about the rushmen here, the defensive ends here.
Yeah. Ohio State, no commitments yet along the defensive ends. Keeping an eye on a few names here. I could probably name 10 players here. So with no commitments already in place, this one's real hard to predict, but here are some of the names. Here are some of the names. We'll just leave it at that. Here's some of the names. There's Kenyatta Jackson. He's from Hollywood, Florida. Ohio State, I think, is in real good position here. He is in the 24/7 Sports top 100. When Ohio State wants a defensive end, they're always going to be in on the conversation, and they already have a really good relationship with Kenyatta Jackson. Jahid Campbell, he is out of the IMG Academy, also in Florida. Here's another really highly ranked guy. Not as highly ranked as Kenyatta Jackson or Anai White, who is the next player we're going to talk about now. If I'm mispronouncing that first name, I apologize. He is out of Emotep Institute in Philadelphia, a town that Ohio State has been making a lot of inroads in recently. He is the number 2 weak side defensive end in the country, top 30 in the just total, and the number 1 player out of Pennsylvania. That's a huge, if you can get White out of Eastern Pennsylvania, like Ohio State has stolen some really great players out of Western PA. Last year, they stole 2 amazing players out of Western PA. If they can continue that trend, then It's basically a spike in the heart of Penn State.
Yes. And the last kid here to keep an eye out for is Trey Bixby, who's already verbal commit to Minnesota. Has been for quite a while now, since August. This is an Ohio kid, the 9th best kid in the state of Ohio. And let's see here, it's 14th nationally right now. So it's, if Ohio State's really looking out for a defensive end here, I think this is someone in your own backyard here over at St. Edward High School, someone that Ohio State can really look at to see if they can lean him come to Ohio State as well.
Exactly. But again, like we talked about with some of the other Ohio kids who Ohio State is not currently, has not currently achieved commitments with, do they feel disrespected? So that's just names to keep an eye on. Now, we're talking Ohio kids, so let's not wait any longer. Let's talk about the linebackers. Gabe Powers, number 1 player in the state of Ohio. CJ Hicks, the number 2 player out of the state of Ohio. Both linebackers, both currently committed to Ohio State. Then we have Desean Mccullough, who is out of Kansas, but family is from Ohio. His dad and his brother both played for the Miami Redhawks, although at the time, would they have been the Redhawks for his dad? Not sure. Moving forward on that. He is marked as an athlete in the 24/7 sports rankings, but he's very much a linebacker, maybe in the same way you'd think of, he's in that bullet sort of position where he basically think of him in the same way you'd think of maybe Pete Warner, or maybe a little more defensive back-y, maybe in the way I always say that Troy Polamalu played in today's game, as opposed to the early 2000s, he would have been a linebacker. And that's sort of how I think of Desean Mccullough. In a previous era of football, he absolutely would have been a safety. In today's game, he's more of a linebacker. But that's why they have him marked as an athlete, because he's kind of a tweener. Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? I do believe Ohio State sees him as a linebacker. 2 additional names to keep an eye on. But by the way, the only reason he lives in Kansas is because his dad is the running backs coach for the Chiefs. 2 additional linebackers to keep an eye on. Sean Murphy, very highly ranked, 5-star, top 20 overall player. He is out of the state of Virginia, a state that Ohio State has had a lot of success in recent years. I think Ohio State ends up getting him. It's tough. It's a 5-star kid. You never know. We're a long ways out, but as of right now, I'm going to project him into the Ohio State class. And also, 5 linebackers. That might be a stretch, but I'm doing it. Justin Medlock, an incredibly underrated kid from the state of Texas, has been linked to Ohio State for a very long time. I'll just say there's maybe some other issues in play, but if they sort of get past those other issues, I do think he ends up in the Ohio State's class.
Okay. 5 linebackers here.
I do put 5 linebackers
like the number
in the final.
That Ohio State. It seems like the number that Ohio State just lost.
Well, they did just lose 4 linebackers.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you look at the guys who are coming in to replace them, they're all 4th and 3rd year guys. I think some 5th year guys. So that next line of linebackers, that Kevon Popes and so on and so forth, Dallas Gant, those aren't young guys either. So you are going to see a lot of turnover in the linebacker room, not just this season, but potentially at the end of next season as well.
Yep. All right, Jared, here's the fun one. Our DBs, DBs here. Tell us who to keep an eye out here.
Well, already have Jahid Singletary already committed to Ohio State. Already have Jair Brown already committed to Ohio State. He is, by the way, the 3rd best player in the state of Ohio. He was living in Louisiana at the time he committed, but has since moved to Cincinnati. family is from the Ohio area, so he was always a bit of Ohio kid, even if he was technically living in Louisiana at the time. Mm-hmm. Now, here's where things get real interesting. We have two very interesting names here for corners, which is, I think, what Kyle was alluding to. First name we're going to talk about is Will Johnson. Much like Raesjon Davis, this was a guy who a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, Ohio State was out. Don't even think about it. Ohio State's out of it. He's a Michigan kid, period. He lives in Michigan. His family, he's a legacy. That's the word I was trying to find. He's a Michigan legacy. He's a Michigan kid. Everyone just let it go. Let it go. It doesn't matter if he's amazing and Michigan sucks right now. He's a Michigan kid. Just let it go. Well, the tide has turned. And I would now say Ohio State has a really, really good shot at Will Johnson. A really good shot at Will Johnson. So I am actually going to project him into Ohio State's class. I might be wrong, but I am going to do it.
I tell you what, like Ohio State has picked off some other Big Ten teams, more notably like Penn State and Pennsylvania and all that. Not too often that you see Ohio State grabbing too many kids away from Michigan. It's usually like they're usually set in stone pretty much. So if Ohio State's able to grab the best player in the state of Michigan, who for a while now seems to be Michigan all the way here, if Ohio State's able to get their gem for the 2022 class, that's just a double whammy there.
I feel like Ohio State's pulled some nice kids out of Michigan in recent years.
Well, not out of the state of Michigan. Yes, I meant from someone who's already verbally committed.
He's not verbally committed, but everyone had him like maybe. But here's the thing: a lot of people suspected he was pocket committed. A lot of people thought it was game over. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't publicly committed.
Okay.
Although I see what you were saying, a lot of people did have it basically over. So, another name to keep an eye on. Will Johnson's the third best corner in the country. Another name to keep an eye on is Damani Jackson. Now, a lot of people might be saying, "Hey, Jared, don't you know Jackson just committed to USC?" I'm not saying this one's over yet. Now, do I put him into Ohio State's final class? I don't. But I also am just saying it's not over yet. So don't give up on Jackson yet. And by the way, as weird as it sounds, if Raesjon Davis does choose Ohio State and Ohio State finally gets that foothold into Mater Day, I feel like a high school we talk about with a great frequency on this show. If Ohio State does finally get that foothold into Mater Day, maybe we end up seeing Ohio State maybe get back in on Jackson. This one's not over yet. I know he committed. I'm not willing to walk away from this yet.
It's a long shot. Got a ways to go, but yeah, definitely keep an eye on that. Maybe someone that's probably more realistic here, perhaps. Keenan Nelson Jr. out of Pennsylvania here.
Yeah, here's another Philadelphia kid. Kyle, you see what high school he goes to?
Goes to let's try that again. Goes to St. Joseph's Prep School.
Now, you want to talk about a prep academy that Ohio State has a foot in. This is where McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr. are both from. So, you want to talk about going into Pennsylvania. We already talked about how Ohio State is trying to get the number one player, White, out of Pennsylvania, not only out of Pennsylvania, but Eastern Pennsylvania. Ohio State's stolen a lot of kids out of the Pittsburgh area. That's old hat. Eastern Pennsylvania. Best two players, both in Philadelphia. And Ohio State's in great position for both of them. Do they end up getting both of them? Time will tell. But I'm putting both of them in my final class prediction. So it tells you how I feel.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody else for the DBs that we should keep an eye out for?
For the corner, we have a lot of safeties yet, but for the corners, one more name to keep an eye on, Denver Harris. Of all the names I mentioned, he's probably the least realistic, but Ohio State's not done trying. He is the number 3 corner in the country. So it's Will Johnson, number 4, Damani Jackson, number 1, and Denver Harris, number 3. Ohio State is in at least decent position with all 3 of those players. And Keenan Johnson's number 10 for the record, which is, he's still a really high 4-star player. So no disrespect whatsoever to him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Safety. I have 3 names, and then we'll talk about the final prediction. Dylan Tatum. This is another Michigan kid, marked as an athlete, because he could potentially be a linebacker. But I do think Ohio State sees him as a safety. Again, maybe more of the bullet position type player. But I am going to include him with the safeties. Best safety in the entire country. Ohio State has an opportunity here. He's a New Jersey kid. Is Keon Sabb? Sabb? S-A-B-B?
Yeah, I would go with Sabb.
Yeah. Ohio State has an opportunity here. I don't think it works out in the end for Ohio State, but they're in play. But I'm going to include Tatum. I'm not going to include Sabb. Now, Kyle, do you want to, his first name's Xavier. You want to take a shot at this last name? Cause
Nwankpa?
I apologize. I know I'm not anywhere close. So again, blanket apology. We are the Sloopcast and we can't pronounce names. And that one's particularly tough, but I do think I'm going to have to learn it eventually because I do put him in the final class prediction for Ohio State. Long ways to go. I don't feel great about it, but I do think he's a Midwest kid. And that to me immediately puts Ohio State in the lead. There's already communication there. There's already a relationship there. And I do think it ends up going Ohio State's way when it's all said and done. But he's definitely not someone who he's a guy I feel good about, not great about at this point. Okay, Kyle. That's all the positions. I'm not projecting any punters or kickers into the class this year, as Ohio State has a redshirt freshman and true freshman going to be on next year's roster.
Okay. I will say, though, Jared, kind of going back we're talking about one of the great high schools in Ohio, Wayne High School.
Yeah.
There was a couple of players before or after Braxton Miller.
Okay.
You want to take a guess on
we don't
who
have
that
time.
might be?
Just read them.
LaChristian Smith.
Okay.
And Big Bob Landers.
There you go. I knew there was one.
Well, there was 2.
Well, I knew there was at least one. All right, Kyle, final prediction for the class. I have 25 names here. Actually, I have 24 names. I'm slotting in a 4th offensive lineman. I just don't feel great putting any one name in there. So I do have offensive lineman -- question mark. So I have 24 names here with an offensive lineman to be named later. So quarterback, Quinn Ewers. Running back, Damari Alston. Wide receiver, Caleb Burton. Wide receiver, Keon Grays. Tight end, Bennett Christian. Tight end, Benji Gosnell. Offensive lineman, Tegra Chabola. Offensive lineman, Emil Wagner. Offensive lineman, Chianti Goodwin. And again, an offensive lineman to be named later. Kyle, do you want to do the defensive side?
All right, we have defensive end, Kenyatta Jackson. Defensive end, Enye White. Defensive tackle is Cayden Curry and Derek Shepard. Linebackers, Sean Murphy, Gabe Power, CJ Hicks, and Desean Mccullough.
You forgot Justin Medlock.
And Justin Medlock. I had to take another breath for that one, Jared.
Okay.
DBs, Will Johnson, Jaheim Singletary, and Jair Brown, and Keenan Nelson Jr.
There you go.
And safeties, Xavier Nwankpa and Dylan Tatum.
Yeah, just real quick. Of the names who are not currently committed, the names who I feel great about. Not good, great.
Okay.
Alston, Grays, Goodwin, Curry. And I think that's, we'll add Kenyatta Jackson to that one as well. Those are names I feel really good about. The other names it's just me trying my best. That's just me trying my best. But but the names I just mentioned are the ones I feel particularly good about.
Yep. All right, Jared, super quick here. Let's get into our Ask Slipcast questions. From Stewart _ E4 US Vet. What players do you see changing numbers with the number 1 and Block O jersey available?
As far as the number 1 goes, one of the whatever wide receiver who already doesn't have a single it's going to be one of the, look at those elite group of wide receivers. Some of them are quote unquote stuck with double digit numbers. You'll see one of those guys get the number 1. As far as the 0 goes, Kyle, I think, and I would love to see it. I think it's Haskell Garrett. I think Haskell Garrett gets that Block O. That's
my name. That's my name all over. It's Haskell Garrett. Like you put another defensive lineman right there for another Block O there. I think it's Haskell Garrett. He comes back here, and what he brings and represents for this defensive line here. Yeah, Garrett.
Everything he went through in the offseason, the leader he continues to be, it's Haskell Garrett.
Agreed. All right, Nomad here. Hello, Nomad. How long did you hyperventilate after finding out that CO2 was coming back?
Yeah, the funny thing is, Kyle, when we recorded, when we haven't even talked about it yet because we just had a lot to get to. And because why? Because everyone already knows it's not even, but yeah. We had 2 names who we didn't know at the time we recorded because we already knew about Thayer Munford. We had 2 names that one name we were shocked by and another name that we felt really, could have gone either way and we felt really good about. So Ohio State is getting back, of course, CO2.
Yes.
That's a shocker. Absolute shocker. We are also getting back Ruckert. That one I was 50-50 on. I didn't know where that was going. But to get Chris Olave back feels insane to me. And this more so than Thayer Munford, and Thayer Munford felt insane to me. But those were the 2 big surprises. I think those were I think everything else pretty much fell the way we expected it to. Togiai did decide to go pro, and we did project him as coming back. But again, that one I was 50-50 on.
Mm-hmm.
So the big surprise, the big surprise that we didn't talk about on last week's episode where we projected the depth chart was Chris Olave returning.
Yes.
I hyperventilated a lot to answer the question.
But to answer the question, it took a little while. When I saw that, I'm just like, this has to be a mistake. No way he's coming back.
I think Bleacher Report actually sent out the push alert to the phones saying the opposite because a peek behind the curtain, I know from talking to the guys over at the Scoop, they write these stories ahead of time. So if you notice when Justin Fields went pro, every single Ohio State site had to basically hit publish on their story. That's it.
Yes.
The story was written, they hit publish. Now go track how long it took him to get the Chris Olave stories out. Because they didn't Ruckert, they probably wrote both Ruckert stories.
Yeah. I mean,
no one bothered to write the Chris Olave story if he came back.
Yeah, it was the same thing with the injury reports. A lot of the staff already knew who was going to be out, so they had that all written out. That way, when they knew right when Ohio State was going to be published, it was all right, right at 12:45, 10:45, whatever it is, post.
I reached out to a couple of people within the Ohio State media people. I'm not an insider. I don't have or keep sources within the program. I don't do it. I'm not an insider. But I do talk to media members. And I reached out to a few of them and I just said, did anyone have this? And I just got a resounding no from everybody, every single person. So do I feel bad that we missed that prediction? No, because literally everyone else did as well.
I'm glad that we were wrong.
The people who are going to give me crap if Raesjon Davis comes to Ohio State, I'll join in on the party. Give me crap. It's fine. I'll be wrong all day if it's wrong in that direction. In fact, I think that's why my predictions tend to be pessimistic, because if I'm going to be wrong, I might as well be happy about it.
Yeah. All right. Moving on here, Jared. Buckeye_Zach. With CO2 deciding to return, it brings a cushion for the next QB1. But do you think this will definitely hurt the future wide receiver stars waiting in line? Kind of like what we were hinting to at, can Ohio State afford to not have a wide receiver for the 2022 class?
I understand it means less game reps for them. I get that. But that also means they get to learn from Chris Olave.
And Hartline.
Well, yes, but that's not the conversation we're currently having, Kyle. They also get to learn from Chris Olave. You think Chris Olave isn't also coaching up the guys? He isn't also leading. So it does mean less field time for them, but that also means additional leadership and additional coaching.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I just want to point out, Austin also asked the Blocko question, and we're going Haskell Garrett, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's see here. Tanner, I think that was the only question from Tanner, but I'm not going to really answer it, unfortunately. Tanner says, with Olave coming back, do you guys expect more transfers out of the receiver room?
Well, I mean, we'll answer that question. We won't name names. We don't project transfers. That's a line we don't cross. I don't ever want to tell a college athlete that he's not good enough to play at Ohio State and should leave. Which to me, if you project transfers, that's what you're doing. You're saying you aren't good enough, get out. And that's just not a line I'm going to cross with amateur athletes. But from a broad perspective, will it happen? Yeah, I expect at least 2 players, not naming names. I don't even actually have names in mind.
I do.
Well, okay. But just me saying I expect 2, that's not me saying these 2. I'm just speaking generally. I expect at least 2 transfers out of the wide receiver room.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Michigan Bucknut says, I'm going to piggyback off of the last question.
That's the transferring thing again.
Yep. Who do you see transferring? Yep.
Yeah, we answered that.
Not going to say. Let's see. Moving down here, Jared. Buckeye_Zach. Is Tennessee mentally handicapped? Does DP actually just get his sources from payoffs of Big Macs?
Yeah. Dan Patrick talked a lot about the Tennessee stuff. He seemed to indicate that Georgia is also cheating, which, okay, might be true, but Dan Patrick's got a lot of stuff wrong this offseason, especially in regards to Ohio State. So Dan Patrick has proven that he's someone who does not have a big filter between what he's hearing and what he says publicly. And therefore, I can't take anything he says overly serious because he's just been wrong a lot lately. And I'm going to not answer the first part of that question.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see here.
But Buckeye_Zach also, I'm just going to summarize this. He sent this after the Purdue game. He's talking about the basketball team. Can Ohio, because we saw Ohio State almost give up a big lead and lose. Then we saw them give up a big lead and lose to Purdue. So he's basically asking about that. Is that a concern? Well, we did see Ohio State get a big lead over Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin got it down to 4 points, but then Ohio State got the lead back. So we did see Ohio State, since that question was asked, in all fairness to Buckeye Zach, we did see Ohio State hold on to a lead against a really good team and win. So yeah, I think we'll let the basketball team answer that question.
All right. Austin Formation here, Jared asks, do you think Olave can break Boston's 1435 receiving yards record, or are there too many mouths to feed?
I think he can do it. How many yards does he need?
Well, for the single season, it's 1435, but he only needs 1123 for career receiving yards.
The 14 will be tough because of what Austin said. There's too many mouths to feed, but the 1125, that's totally doable. If he stays healthy, that's totally doable.
And as long as there's enough games too.
So, if I'm mispronouncing this, help me out. He's a new He's a new guy in the Discord server, or at least he recently gained access to the Ask Sloopcast due to being promoted within the Discord server. But Kabuto, let me know if you'd like me to pronounce that a different way, Kabuto. He says, what's the difference between a preferred walk-on? By the way, Ohio State received another commitment to their 2021 class in the form of a preferred walk-on. Kevin Wilson's son joined the Ohio State 2021 class. Again, not a scholarship player, a preferred walk-on. And he will play center for Ohio State. Doing a preferred walk-on and a regular walk-on. What's the selection process? Basically, a preferred walk-on is guaranteed a spot on the team. You are invited to the team, and you have a guaranteed spot on the roster. A regular walk-on is basically you're like a tryout player. You showed up, you tried out, Ohio State deemed you athletic enough that you're not going to hurt yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I hate Rudy. Everyone knows I hate Rudy. But Rudy was not a preferred walk-on. He's a kid who showed up to practice and they didn't kick him out of the stadium. A preferred walk-on is guaranteed a spot on the roster. That's the difference. And what's the selection process to be a preferred walk-on? Essentially, Ohio State goes to you. Then they probably do this with a lot of kids who end up going to Division II schools, like maybe Dayton, or excuse me, a 1AA, Dayton 1AA. We're already over time. We're not going to get worried about it. But basically, Ohio State says you're good enough to be on the team, but we don't have a scholarship for you. Now, in the case of Kevin Wilson's son, because Kevin Wilson's an employee at the university, I do believe that means Kevin Wilson's son doesn't have, kind of gets a scholarship, because I don't think employee. Yeah. So I probably had to run that one past compliance, but that's the difference between a preferred walk-on and a regular walk-on.
All right. Let's see here. Suncard asks us, Jared, is there any Bill Davis type of coaches on the current staff?
I'm going to assume what you mean by that is someone who's not developing players well, and the answer to that is no. My only real concern on the defensive staff right now is, one, can Kerry Combs be a defensive coordinator? He had 1 year at it and it didn't go well, and I'm not blaming him for that. I'm blaming 7 defensive backs leaving the roster. That's a thing we talked a ton about in the what did we end up calling that episode, Kyle? Post-mortem?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that. So if you disagree with me on that, go listen to the post-mortem episode.
Yep. Right. I think that's all the...
I think everyone on the staff are good player developers.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yes, I agree.
Stud's not the recruiter I want him to be, as we talked about as far as Ohio State. Me being pessimistic about Ohio State getting Zach Rice on the show. Or on the team.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's all the questions we have for today here, Jared.
One more. From Austin. Would you rather lose or not lose Hartline or Johnson?
I'd rather not lose Hartline at this point.
Yeah, basically. And that's only because Hartline's younger. Is that because I feel like you're likely to lose both of them eventually. Johnson Sr. is in his 70s. He's going to retire at some point. Hartline is too talented to be a wide receiver coach, even at Ohio State, and is going to get poached at some point. Hartline has publicly stated that he only wants to work at Ohio State and that he's not leaving. But
rule one.
Eventually someone shows up with a ton of money. So
rule number one here.
What's that?
Rule number one.
Yeah. Rule number one, the doctor lies. And yes, even the assistant coaches are doctors, apparently, in this analogy. All right. So Kyle, that's it. That's the last of the questions. Hartline based off of youth, but you're losing both of them here in the next few years, I fear. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Nomad. Nomad says blasphemy on losing the coaches. All right, Kyle, that's the end of the show. We predicted the 2022 roster, which was ridiculous. Or excuse me, the 2022 recruiting class, which is ridiculous still. We gave... Do you want to give a final prediction on Raesjon Davis? We gave a final prediction on JTT, on Tuimoloau. Do you want to give a final prediction on Davis? I'm gonna go yes. And again, I said he's maybe slightly above 50% at this point. So I say he's slightly above 50%. Therefore, I'm gonna go yes.
I'm gonna go no. I'm just gonna go no, just because of things that I've been reading and all that regarding to his family and all that. So I'm gonna lean no.
He stated in an interview. Thank you, Country Buckeye. I'm glad you like the show. He stated in an interview with Buckeye Grove that his parents told him the decision is up to him. That's it. And that was enough to push me from 50% to 55.
All right. Let's end the show here, Jared.
All right. Let's end the show. I want to encourage everyone, check out the sloopcast.com. It's just a landing site for links. So if you ever want to find out how you can support us financially on Patreon, join our Discord server, which is mostly free. There are premium channels, but there are much more free channels. You can find out where to find t-shirts. This is our Know Your Enemy t-shirt, which can be found at merch.thesloopcast.com. If you don't want to wear podcast merch, you can also support us by buying some Ohio-based merchandise over at 7071.thesloopcast.com. Patreon is patreon.thesloopcast.com. Discord is discord.thesloopcast.com. Make sure to check out our good friends over at the Buckeye Scoop, and find us on Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. And also always be kind to our sponsors, the Mad Canadian and the Iron Bean Coffee Company. Two companies that we are just incredibly proud to have as partners. Just beyond the fact that their products are good, they're good people, and we're insanely happy to be working with them. So that's it. We don't just, not anymore anyway. Maybe in the past we just took sponsors from anybody. But I think because of our relationship with these, we don't take, and not anymore will we just take a sponsorship from anybody. So incredibly happy and proud to have the Mad Canadian and the Iron Bean Coffee Company as partners on the show. And with all of that being said, Kyle, is there anything in Kyle's corner?
One last basketball tidbit here. The basketball team actually will be having a game this week. They are playing, just going to verify. Wednesday. Yep, this Wednesday they are going to be playing rescheduling the Penn State game that was originally postponed from January 6th. So they will be playing Penn State in Columbus Wednesday night, 7 p.m.
There you go. On that note, the entire Michigan athletic program was just shut down for 2 weeks. Like the entire athletic department.
Not just basketball, not just particularly all.
Yeah, they apparently have, and we're not going to get deep into this because I'm not a scientist and I don't understand it, but they don't just have a COVID outbreak. They apparently have the new COVID outbreak. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't understand the science behind it, and I'm not going to pretend to, because I'm not an Ohio State podcaster, not an epidemiologist. There's a difference between those two things. One person talks about Ohio State football. The other people are doctors. Hashtag shots fired. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the show. Kyle, that's it for Kyle's Corner.
That's it.
All right.
That's it.
Tonight's ending music will be brought to you by a band out of Athens. They're a folk band, maybe crosses the country into some crosses the line into some alt country. But we'll call them a folk band. They are a band called Camp. That is spelled with 2 A's and apparently all caps. Not that the caps necessarily matter, but CAAMP. And the name of this song is No Sleep. So with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer. Hey, Kyle, my beer's from Athens too.
Nice.
This is a very Athens-based podcast. Completely threw myself off in the middle of the ending spiel. Drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Camp. I almost turned off the recording, Kyle. I don't know why. We're not done yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Dogs. Oh, you can see Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see LG yet. I think she's behind my chair.
Right. Mine's all curled up and just gone.
Yeah.
Just completely gone.
No, he's tired.
Big ball of dog.
He's a fluff ball is what he is.
He is.
Country Buckeyes happy to see Apollo. Can we get it? Hey, LG, come here. We need an LG sighting on the show. Come here.
I see a tail wagging.
Yeah, she's not going to do it. You can see her butt. We'll have to settle for LG butt. All right, Kyle, let's end the show. You want to do the ad read first, or should I?
I'll go ahead. All
right, make sure to thank Camp. Make sure to thank Camp.
And once again, I'd like to thank Camp for ending today's episode, and also like to thank the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company for sponsoring this episode. Mad Canadian just has 14 great seasonings over at the madcanadianbbq.com.
Kyle, I heard a rumor that he's going to make some of the seasons seasonal seasons. So
seasonal seasonings. Be sure
that's a rumor I heard. So if you want one of them in particular, you might want to go ahead and buy those before they go behind some sort of seasonal wall.
Yes. Also, be sure to check out the Mad Canadian's social medias, Facebook and Twitter, to find out where his food truck is going to next, because he doesn't tell us. Either way, be sure to check out the great season over at the madcanadianbbq.com. That is the madcanadianbbq.com. Be sure to check out the packages such as the Just Send It, the Sweet Heat, and the Whole Hog, which is one of each of the seasonings over at the madcanadianbbq.com. Be sure to also use the promo code SloopCast10, SloopCast10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where they have your butt covered.
This episode of the Sloopcast is also brought to you by the Iron Bean Coffee Company. The Iron Bean Coffee Company is an Ohio-based micro roast to order, hand roasted, marine-owned, Toledo-based coffee company. All of their beans are fair trade certified, USDA organic. Integrity is what their company is based on. They do the right thing even when no one's looking. They import all of their high quality beans, in many cases from single farms. Some of their coffees are available in K-Cup. They have gift cards available. They have a sampler available. So if you don't know which coffee you might want, you can essentially buy a 6-pack of coffee where you can get a small sample of a bunch of their coffees. Free shipping over $50. They have a subscribe and save like service if you do find that one coffee that you absolutely love. And again, they have an amazing selection. I talked about some of the dark roast. Let me talk a little bit about some of the flavored coffees. They have the unicorn. What's that flavored like? I don't know, and neither do you. You won't find out till it shows up, because it's an R&D coffee bag. It is what it is. That's it. You just don't know. That's the fun of it. If you want something a little more certain, you can get Mom's Carrot Cake, the Intense Blueberry, and the Mint Chocolate Chip. So those are some of their flavored coffees that are available at ironbeancoffee.com. That's Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster.